Hello. So I'm Meelis from Helmes, and today I'm gonna talk about how to level up the outsourcing of business critical software development, and talking about a model that can actually offer 3 times more efficiency than the traditional models. So the software industry has matured quite a lot in the past 2 decades, but there's actually been no big innovation in the outsourcing models. But first, let's talk about our company's journey and how we arrived to this model that we believe is so much more efficient. So in Helmes, which is located in Estonia, we're an Estonian company. We are big enough to be able to provide global service, but small enough to be agile. And if you've heard about Estonia, Forbes claims multiple years in a row that it's the world's most digitalized society. So what does this actually mean? It means the whole public sector and the private sector are actually connected with each other, and they are communicating through business critical solutions. These are hundreds of business critical solutions online. And digital society also means you can go online and create a new business in 5 minutes, and you can go online and file your taxes in 3 minutes. Only thing you actually can't do today online is getting married and buying property. So why does this matter? It matters because Helmes is one of the largest Estonian software companies, and we have actually built 1/3 of this digital society. So the business critical solutions are powering our digital society. What's more, it sounds easier than it actually is done in the real life. So let's take a look at how do you evaluate development efficiency? So it's really hard to evaluate development efficiency, especially when it comes to business critical solutions. And what actually happens in this world today in the outsourcing, the classical model is something that we can relate to being as a food analogy. So it currently looks a little bit like this. You go to the market and you look for the lowest price, and you look for someone who can provide you the largest volume. And if we are buying potatoes, this is great. You look at the potato, it's fresh, and you go for the cheapest price. When we talk about software development, when we talk about business critical software, it's not as easy. So when we now look at what actually the business needs and what the organization needs and what's the real ambition, it's not about potatoes. It's all about a delicious food that sustains you, has all the vitamins, and it consists of different parts. It's so much more about the value and quality and the efficiency. So I'm going to ask you, what is the correlation of the typical outsourcing model that we are seeing every day now regarding lowest price, highest volume, and between the quality and value? We don't see this correlation. But let's mix things up a little bit. Let's make it even more complicated. You've all been in the software industry and have seen it. What it's actually about and what makes it the real difference is the chat. Whether we take this analogy back to the software development and look at the software developers, you have read, and I have firsthand experienced the effectiveness difference of different software developments and different talents. Some claim it can be up to 10 times. Some books and research say it's even up to 20 times. It's not as important whether it's 10 or 20. It's more about what is required for this talent to come out and actually have this 10 times impact. So let's look at how the software outsourcing industry currently works, and let's see what the world has learned about software development. We have all learned that it's all about people. Software development is not a high-tech business. It's not academical research. It's people business. And when we talk about people, what comes to mind is actually the first classical learnings from the software industry. So let's take a memory lane and freshen up what it's all about. First of all, 50 years ago, there came out the book, the first Bible of software development, The Mythical Man Month, where Frederick Brooks researched and proved that actually adding more people will hurt the project and the efficiency. But still, when the project is in some kind of distress, the first thing people do is start to add people, mixing up the communication lines and actually often bringing down the efficiency. So while there's an optimal size of a team, which can work well, adding more will actually hurt. So communication is the primary driver of efficiency in people business. Let's take a second look. 30 years ago, the second Bible. If you haven't read it, please do. It's well written, and its research proves that Tom DeMarco and Timothy Lister, having researched 500 software projects, came to a conclusion. Not only is it about the team size and communication, it's all about how well do all these people in this team work together? How much can they trust each other? How well are the roles defined and the expectations? How clear are they? And when these people really work well together, they have a second level efficiency effect. And this is called the jelly team effect. Now, when we bring this today's world, it's not only about how well the team works together, it's also about the autonomy of the team. You've heard it, it's been talked about a lot in the recent years. The team needs to be autonomous to have the highest performance. Autonomy means all the core competences are inside the team, and as much as possible, we should reduce the external dependencies. So, autonomous team as the high performance unit. Let's take a third example. 20 years ago, well-known research organization Gallup that looks into engagement which is directly correlated with productivity. They also talk about the flow, people in their genius zone achieving so much more, being engaged, being happy and productive. It also talks about the Goldilocks zone, meaning if we want to have the highest efficiency, people should work, if they work with two boring tasks and two easy tasks, they will not be motivated and the efficiency drops. If the challenge is too hard and they cannot manage, again, the motivation drops. So we have a kind of a flow tunnel that all the assignments should be assigned based on. And then if we bring this forward again, then we talk about strengths-based leadership, strengths partnerships, and talent-based assignments. This can only happen in a team that knows each other, a team that is managed based on these principles. So let's look at how the professional services outsourcing currently works. In professional services, in software development, there are three types of services. There's a procedure business, which is actually really great, and the resource model of renting out individual consultants and people is good for call centers, for technical supports, all kinds of work that doesn't require teaming up, that doesn't require specific troubleshooting. It's quite well scripted and can be performed individually. When we go to the higher level challenges, we come to experience service, meaning these people have to be experienced, they have to be able to work with each other. And this is where you probably have tried out a project-based outsourcing. Project-based outsourcing is really good when the project is clear and small. It has the best benefit. But when we talk about large business-critical systems, these systems' lifetime is from 5 to 10 years. These are not small projects. And when you try to do large projects, what happens is actually the estimations go off. And what we have seen in our 30 years, large project-based outsourcing is like, I lose, you win, or whether you lose and I win. It's a zero-sum game. It's not good for our businesses. So when we go forward, there are also the expert consultancy, such as McKinsey that you've heard about so much also today. McKinsey and similar companies, as we do, you come with us with a challenge, we provide you a solution. But this solution is on paper. You have to implement it by yourselves. And again, you go back to the resource model or project-based model when you are using outsourcing. What we have found out, and what actually I believe best of your teams are already doing internally, is something of an autonomous full responsibility team. So what we are talking about here is the same principles, the same world learning, the best practices that Facebook, Amazon, Google teams, and best of your teams are already using is also be taken as an outsourcing model. This should be built as a long-living team, and the organization that actually provides this kind of service has to be designed in a way that makes it available. Because in resource business and project-based business, the people come and go, whether it's once a month or once a year or once a week. All the investment that you as businesses do into these people are actually lost. So all of this investment of learning to work with each other, even in a project-based outsourcing model, is lost. So all the efficiency gains are lost. That's why the autonomous full responsibility team is the only model that can provide sustainably these benefits that we know come from people working each other efficiently and knowing what to do. So let's look at an organization. What does it take to be able to create and build these teams? Teams where people are from 5 to 10 years. We've been building this model for 20 years, building from hundreds of business critical solutions for the private sector and the public sector. And teamwork is all about people. People is all about human-centric values. So our two main values is caring and efficiency. When the culture is set, you need to have a structure that actually provides it. So we have nothing regarding to resource pools. It's all about every team is its own unit. They are measured and rewarded based on the same kind of core that they have. And you also have to have a team that's motivated to achieve the goal that you as a business has set. So the metrics and the rewards must be aligned. This means that our teams are also having a share in the profits, meaning everybody wants to pull their weight. Everybody is interested in having the minimum amount of overhead. And if someone doesn't pull their weight, then the teams finds a way to get their skills up or find a support system, because otherwise everybody loses together. So a team motivated on the one goal. And on top of that are all the agile practices and the lean principles that we heard so much about. That is the best practice of how software development is done today. But also to be able to provide this kind of service, you need a different type of standard as well, because it's not about renting out individuals or groups of people. It's all about, as a team, taking care of the client's needs. So if you are the driver, then the team is the one who builds the car. The team is the one who fine-tunes the engine and maintains it and ensures that you don't stay more than a few seconds in the pit stop. In real life, this means this team is really experienced in software development, especially building these complex systems. They know what's going to happen in a week, in a month, in 2 months. So they can prevent it. They can avoid the problems. They can mitigate the risks. All this can be done as a service. When we now go forward and look inside the team, what we see is the classical 8 roles. These roles, some of them are the core roles. They have to be world-class. We are talking about how to manage the engineers, how to manage the processes, how to manage third-party partners, and building all these integrations. There also has to be a business IT analyst who knows the developers, who knows the domain, and can make all of these tasks available based on the people's kind of strengths and talents. And of course, the architect and lead developer responsible for engineering excellence and optimal architecture. When you have an individual architect, mostly what they care about is about how to use a fancy technology, and what often happens is either over-engineering or under engineering. When you look at the team, you know what the client business need. It's actually, you can have an optimal architecture. And this all plays into achieving the 300% performance gains. But it's only possible if the team works together and is long-lived and knows each other. In Helmes, we also have the internal academy because these world-class skills don't come up out of thin air. They have to be trained. Knowing how to build the business critical solution isn't taught in the university. It has to be explained. So putting this all together is, we believe it's time to level up the game in software development outsourcing, to move away from these individual renting of people or groups of people because the efficiency, so much efficiency is lost. We believe it's time to provide a high-performing autonomous team as a service consisting of all the core competencies, especially building business-critical solutions. We know that the best teams already apply this. So why take my word for it? Try it out. We believe you will taste the difference. And to start with, we have designed a quick start model to find the fastest opportunity to start a development with a small core team. Or you can have a benchmark team that actually you can look at all the world's best practices, how it's done, evaluate your partners, evaluate your internal teams. This is something that we've been really hard working on for the past 20 years, building hundreds and hundreds of these business critical solutions that have to work well with each other. Thank you for listening and considering this new model of outsourcing. I hope you have time today for a few more meals, and let's cook the next one together. Thank you.
Thank you, Meelis. Much appreciated, sir. Do you mind if I, very quickly, if I ask you, so the teams that you built there, do you work remotely or not? And what impact has the kind of pandemic had on team performance?
Thank you. That's a good question. We work both remotely and together. When the team is together, you get also extra benefits being in the same room. But actually what we found out during the pandemic, that we had to split up the teams, right? And we found out that having a combination of some of the time together, let's say 1 day a week or 2, and having some time off remotely actually gets even a 4th level efficiency gains. So remotely working is good, but to get these teams up and running, you need some startup time that they are working together, getting to know each other. So all the socializing principles has to be applied as well. It cannot just be that, you never meet the team, you don't get to know them, then the benefits will be lost. So this is an additional scientific research that we are actually doing. We are measuring. We have actually different pilot teams currently working in different kind of remote settings and finding out what's the best type of model.
Lovely. And what about the sort of the briefing process? When a client kind of comes in and all that sort of stuff. Do you have lessons around that, around what makes a good briefing process? Is there an element of sort of, of kind of your teams going to the client, of the client coming to you? What does that sort of process look like?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, when we talk about world-class autonomous teams, we understand that our client runs their business differently. There are clients where IT takes care of all the outsourcing, and there are clients where the business wants to work directly with the outsourcing partner. The team has to be able to provide both means of service. They have to be able to work really well with both the IT and the business. And whether they have to go to the client side, that's okay, but to get the real benefits, it's more about having the team autonomy. And we consider the client core people, especially the product manager and the business specialist, who work tightly together with the business analyst and architect anyway. But most part of the team needs to stick together to actually leverage these individual strengths and talents to arrange the work to gain the best benefits. Otherwise, it's going to be averaged out, and we're back to the standard way of outsourcing, that we are losing so much efficiency.
Yeah, of course. We do have a question for you from our audience. I think we have Nazir here from Polaris. Good afternoon, Nazir. How are you, sir?
Very well, thanks. So Meelis, yes, I have a question. So it sounds like you found your sweet spot between a project-based organization and strategic consulting. So you're somewhere there in the middle, and it sounds like you're an advocate of this product organization, which I like a lot as well. My question to you is, how do you see this autonomous team working after the product is built? And there's small enhancements or there's support. Do you see also that this product team, I'll call it product team, would continue to live indefinitely? Is that the vision?
Thank you for asking. This is the main difference between a project and a long-lived business-critical solution development. These business-critical solutions live for 5 to 10 years before they are like totally replaced or they are out of the business. The needs have changed too much. So yes, these teams play together for many, many years, even after the main part of the project is done. What usually happens is we've seen the classical outsourcing model of having 20 people working on a business critical solutions being taken over with this kind of performance unit with 7 people. So there's almost 3 times difference, and these 7 people can maintain this system. And when the system goes into really kind of like only maintenance mode, that means that the team can take up a new business critical solution. So they're always working together. It doesn't disperse. It always has these benefits of really knowing each other. And what we have also done is built in the possibility of growth. So we have 10 years development plan for each of these roles. From a junior, how they are trained and how they are assigned kind of the just fitting assignments up to an architect. So yes, it's a long-lived team. That's the essence of it. It's the same kind of team that each organization is building internally. But we believe it's time the outsourcing community to be able to provide it as a service. Very similar to software as a service, but it's a team as a service. And also, these solutions belong to our clients. All the IP, everything. It's all about ramping up the efficiency of outsourcing model.
Nazir, you said you like the kind of product-focused team approach. Is that the way you organize your own teams?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there's a lot of leverage when you have a team that's, fully autonomous and fully focused on the product they're building, whether it's, to Meelis's point, whether it's UI, UX, architects, developers, business folks, of course. They're very close to the problem and to the product that's being built. So that I found has been very, very effective. Yes.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, Nazir. Much appreciated, as always. Take care. And Meelis, we have another question for you from Charles at the Met Office. Charlie, how are you there, sir? Hey, how are you?
Yeah. It kind of follows on from Nazir's question, really. You talked about good outsourcing being things that have clear outcomes, that aren't too big or complicated. I've got a lot of things that are big and complicated, and I can't change that, and they don't have clear outcomes, at least when I start. So again, recognizing that there's a lot of merit in the model, how when working with you, who takes on the ambiguity? Who takes on the big, long IT projects if it's not you?
I'm not sure if I fully understood, because it's the team can take from an idea or from a challenge, full development, full maintenance, everything, talking directly with the business and IT. So this, as I understand, this is the normal way of actually working for this team. So did I understand the question correctly? Can you please
kind of, but not all problems have clear outcomes. There's a lot of IT, certainly at my scale, that are anything but clear outcomes. Frankly, they're a hard slog, and the outcomes are a long way down the road. So you're talking about team productivity and having clear outcomes and not making tasks too hard. I suppose the point I'm making is that some tasks are very hard. They are very hard. So how do you cope with those?
Thank you. Yeah, now I understood. Tasks have to be split, but this splitting is the core competence of 2 people in this team. It's the architect lead developer and the business analyst. So they have this experience. They are the core people, and they will split it up as necessary. They will have an MVP, task assignments, and when the team learns and grows, everybody can take on more kind of challenging tasks. But this is their core competence. It's without them, it doesn't work. Thank you for asking this.
Charlie, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, completely. And it's the answer I've got in my head, but I wanted to make sure that I understood the model.
How do you deal with it? Are you exactly the same way?
Exactly the same way. So we've invested very heavily in outsourced architects, actually, from BA Systems Applied Intelligence, a big team of them. And we've in-house developed a lot of architecture skill that we never really had. And that's we do exactly as Meelis provided. We take these really big, difficult problems and we break them down into steps where the teams don't have to worry about the big problem. They can see where the finish line is.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, Charlie. Much appreciated, as always. Take care. Thank you much, Steve. Have a great rest of the day. So, Meelis, when we go back to the kind of, the structure of these teams, it feels like you've done a lot of hard work on defining the systems, defining the way they learn, defining the way they operate and all that sort of stuff. If you're offering advice to our audience who are working with their own internal teams, as well as maybe considering outsourcing and nearshoring and all that sort of stuff, but are working their own internal teams, what are the kind of key lessons around building teams that, in hindsight, you wish you had learned a bit earlier?
Well, thanks for asking. This is a good question. I want to think a little about this. So first of all, these books, if you haven't read them, if the architects and your kind of engineering managers haven't read them, start from there. Once I got my hands on the peopleware, and I had already 10 years of experience in software development by that time, I said, why nobody told me about this earlier? So first of all, there are great books who are containing all of this magic that we need to know about. And I can give you a few more. In the past few years, there have been specialized books like An Elegant Puzzle, the team topologies, that all talk about how to design your teams. And this all applies to the similar ways how we have done it. But it took 15 years of the software industry's time to come out with these books. So it's kind of, but at least now we have it. We don't have to learn everything, by hand, by doing all the mistakes ourselves.
And then how, again, common challenges, because you're doing this with your teams, our audience is doing this with their teams. What are the best practice ways you've seen so you read a new book, you think this makes absolute sense, I would very much like to get this into a team. How do you roll that out? What are the kind of cultural challenges? Because your teams, as good as your teams are going to be, they're still humans, aren't they? They're still going to be, well, I kind of like doing it this way, and do we have to change again?
Yeah, so what's also kind of, in a way, funny or sad, I don't know which one, when I go to our teams and I ask one of the team members, so how do you work? And they then say, well, I just come to work and I work with my team. Either I develop or test. They don't even understand the difference that they are making, because for them it's normal. So it's kind of, first of all, you have to experience the different setting. But now coming to the change leadership, it's all about always educating and proving with piloting and experiments to the key people in the team. They have to understand. They are the leaders. They have to understand the difference. It's very hard to kind of grow from bottom up sometimes. So I think training the leaders and key people is the main thing. And of course, the way I've done it is we have almost 100 teams, and some of them are much better than the others. Everybody's good, but some of them are exceptional. So you pick out these jewels and you let the teams talk with each other. And that was the change begins. Because people trust other people who are at the same role. They're more ready to listen to them than actually some manager who comes to talk to them, hey, let's change things.
And how have you, you know, again, sorry, because I just know, you know, looking through the sort of challenges that everyone described before they joined this summit. So we ask everyone, as you know, what are you struggling with? What can we talk about, et cetera, et cetera. And this kind of, you know, this remote, this working from home, this disparate workforce thing was a big thing. So how are you doing? That sounds like a really, you know, it's a good, solid system. You get the people who are really good to train the other people. How are you doing that currently when everybody is, you know, is remote? Is that working as well? Have you got, you know, have you fixed that whole how people kind of play together as opposed to just sit and talk?
Yeah, so this is a larger issue because it needs to have a training program. This is something that lasts for actually a couple of years. So the first change we have to do regarding the pandemic is if we have every month, we have specific trainings about business critical integrations, about security, and about what does it mean to be an effective lead developer. So we had to split up these trainings to be virtual, and instead of like 1 or 2 days, we have to split it up into 2 and 3 hour sessions. What this actually meant for us is that we had to pick out the most critical pieces of these trainings instead of spending the whole day. So it's all about small bits of learning instead of like large amounts of learning. So that's the main change, and it has to be continuous. What else is we have internally the whole learning management system, which supports these people's development. So it's not only about one-time random training, it's all about a roadmap. As you have a product roadmap, every person has a development roadmap, every team has their development roadmap, and also an assessment about how far are they actually from the kind of, let's say, the best efficiency model that we have learned. So it's a whole program. It's not one single thing.
Absolutely, thank you much indeed. So, look, you know, clearly you've really kind of considered this how you build. It's a small, autonomous, powerful, quick teams, and how you work with your clients and all those sorts of things. What then, I suppose, in closing, you know, final kind of words from you, what do you think is the key value that Helmes provides its clients?
I think the best value comes from an IT who's also experienced, and as I heard from the question from one of the attendees, if they already know that yes, this is the method that works, it's proven internally, and the challenge is also, can we trust the outsourcing partner to be able to actually provide this full service? And all I can say is, please try it out. This has been our advantage building the whole Estonia digital society. And I think this learning should be at least experienced. So give it the chance and try the full autonomous outsourcing model before just kind of thinking about it's much easier to do individual resourcing.
Meelis Lang, thank you very much indeed. Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the summit. Thank you, Meelis.
Thank you.